Hi, everyone. Welcome back. I'm Michael Sandler, your host on Inspire Nation. If you've been feeling stress, uncertainty, or emotional overwhelm lately, and you want a science backed way to calm your system, strengthen resilience, and reconnect with your heart, then do we have the Heart Coherence and Global Coherence show for you today. Today, I'll be speaking with Howard Martin of HeartMath, a pioneer in the science of heart coherence, about what heart coherence truly is, why it matters now more than ever, and how we can use it to create more inner stability and even contribute to greater balance in the world around us. So welcome back to the show, my dear friend Howard. Are you ready to shine?
I'm ready to shine. So good to see you, Michael. It's been too long. I'm extremely excited today to have this opportunity to have this conversation. I hope that anyone who's watching and listening is going to find some valuable information to help them deal with these challenges that we're all facing right now during this era of super high speed change.
So I am, before I get to dive in with questions, but I'm so tickled pink, Howard, to have you on the show, because when we last spoke, I think it was around 2020, there's fires, there's ashes, there's embers, there's COVID. And I think the world is actually even crazier today. So as we dive into things, I've got to ask, are we being knocked out of coherence now more than ever? And why is it so important to get back into coherence right now?
Well, it's both. We're being knocked out more than ever, and a lot of people are changing. A lot of people are growing, making changes in their life. They're figuring out ways to deal with it. The changes that we're going through now are unprecedented. Never before in the history of humankind have we experienced more change in a short amount of time than we are today. And that's taken a toll. So it's important that we take steps within ourselves and that we recognize our own sense of empowerment in the midst of all these changes, so we can continue to thrive, continue to create the meaningful, fulfilling lives that we all deserve and want. It isn't easy, because you're right. We've had a lot of change already, and the speed of change continues to accelerate, and the challenges continue to accelerate. So yeah, coherence and developing heart coherence within ourselves has never been more important than it is today.
Thank you. So I guess I get to ask, what is heart coherence? And the corollary to that is, how does it help us get back into our power, into our inner power?
First of all, heart coherence is a physiological and psychological state. You see, the physical heart's doing more than pumping blood. It's a command center within the body. It's like the major orchestrator in the body of all the biological systems at the physiological level. The physical heart is actually sending information to the brain, to the rest of the body. And it does it in 4 different ways. We can break that down later if you want. But it's sending valuable, important, synchronizing information to the entire body. When that information is organized and structured in a certain way, then it puts us in an optimal physiological and psychological state. Heart coherence is that state. It's a state where all the body's major systems are synchronized to the rhythmic beating patterns of the heart. And that's things like nervous system function, hormonal function, digestion, respiration, brain function. All that stuff syncs up. And when it syncs up, we go into this highly efficient physiological state that's very healthy for us, because everything's working together in harmony. Now, the benefits of that are huge, in terms of what it's doing in terms of physiology. The signals that are going from heart back to brain are actually opening up the higher perceptual centers in the brain, allowing us to think more clearly. We know, and that through these changing times, a lot of people are experiencing what's called brain fog. They feel like they can't think as clearly. In the heart coherent state, we can improve that. We gain some of our mental capacity and mental functioning that we seem to have lost sometimes in these stressful times. It's also good for the physical heart. It actually releases hormones into the body that regenerate us when we're in a state of heart coherence. There's hormones that be things that your listeners probably know about, like DHEA, the anti-aging hormone. And I think everyone wants to feel like they're getting younger or not aging as quickly. And then certainly, yeah, me too. And oxytocin, which is generically called the love hormone. Those hormones are produced in greater amounts when in a heart coherent state. So we find that people like athletes, for example, we train athletes, or they use our technology or our app or our sensor to train themselves into higher states of heart coherence. Why would that be? They perform better. Their reaction speed times improve. Their visual fields improve. They become better at what they do in their athletic performance. And that's all physiological benefits from heart coherence. I think one of the major things to understand, though, is that there are psychological benefits, meaning that we will experience more regenerative, uplifting emotions. In these times, it's hard sometimes for people to feel good about life, to have appreciation for things in their life, or to have the extra energy that they would love to have to feel more care or compassion for people. In the heart coherent state, that stuff gets easier. We more naturally default, for example, to having more compassion for someone rather than judging them, as an example. And all that adds up. And over time, it begins to reduce the stress accumulation that we're all experiencing. And it puts us in a position to where we begin to draw or magnetize more fulfillment, more experiences into our life that would be the ones that we really want, the ones that are going to move us forward in our growth, and the ones that feel good to us. And so that's just a general overview of the physiological understanding of heart coherence and some of the benefits.
I am so glad I'm having you on here today, because this is a coming home, because I used to geek out on heart coherence. I used to geek out with your old app and with your old sensor all the time, until I think I wore out 2 sensors. Maybe I wore out 3. At least I wore out 2 sensors. So and we'll talk about that in a minute. There's so many different directions I want to go with this. I want to get to the 4 different ways in which it communicates. Before I do that, though, are you saying that if we get in a state of heart coherence, and everybody, I'm a how-to show guy, so we're going to have, before the end, we will have ways that you can get in heart coherence today. You don't have to wait to get an app or something like that. We're going to play with this. So many directions that I get to go with this, Howard. And I know I'm going to want to go, I'm going to geek out today. I'm going to bring that inner geek. It's not even so much inner, but I'm going to go, I want to go to the 4 ways that your heart communicates. Before I do that, though, are you saying that I can actually use heart coherence to generate oxytocin within myself?
Absolutely. What we've seen and what research has seen is that these hormones are produced in greater amounts when we're in a heart coherent state. What people didn't know, this is one of the 4 ways. Back in 1983, the heart was classified as being a hormonal gland. So it was both a cardiovascular organ and a hormonal gland. It was one of these things that who knew, but it actually took place in 1983. The reason is that scientists figured out and determined that the heart was producing hormones. One of those was oxytocin. Now, I understand oxytocin is very difficult to measure in the body, but it's presumed now that the physical heart may be the largest producer of oxytocin in our body, not the brain, that the heart may be the largest producer. Not 100% sure, but the indicators are there that it could be that. So when we're in a more heart coherent state, experiencing emotional qualities, for example, like more care, more kindness, more understanding, a sense of dignity within ourselves, we'll start producing more oxytocin. Oxytocin is generally produced when we are in a loving state. Scientists know this. When a mother and a young baby, before our show, I got to see your daughter. I'm sure that in seeing your family and your daughter, there was immediately more oxytocin being produced in my body, just being able to experience that love that was going on between you and your family before we started our show. We can learn to consciously do that, though, and that's where the difference comes in.
Wow, I'm very excited about this, and as I speak to you, I'm always, and I do this with all of my guests. I'm always, and when I teach, I'm always sending love, which helps me get into more of that state. But I actually switched and played with it for a minute, and was feeling what it did for my heart of sending myself love. And I'm very curious if that is actually, because we're told, until today, I have been told that oxytocin required another being. It required love to or from someone else, but not for yourself to generate oxytocin. If I treat you well, you get a dose of oxytocin, for instance. So this is wild.
Well, love is love. Sending it to ourselves is important. Our societal programming tends to put us in a place at times where we don't think we deserve it. We shouldn't be doing that. That is self-centered. These kind of old presets, old psychological programs. The fact is one of the things we should be doing. It's highly regenerative to ourselves. We should be sending more love to ourselves. I think we can't give what we don't have. So we need to have that love, and we need to send it to ourselves, and then we need to radiate that. Of course, we need to include that love in all of our interactions, how we treat others, how we treat life itself. But starting with ourselves is important. It's empowering to feel love and to send love to ourselves. It's something we should be doing.
Thank you. It's going to sound corny. I love that. I love you. So let's go from there. What are the 4 ways that the heart is communicating with ourselves?
Okay. First of all, the heart has a nervous system. So we have a neurological communication. That's the first one. Next to the brain, it's the most complex part of the nervous system that we have. And it's actually studied through a medical discipline called neurocardiology. This nervous system, they refer to it as the brain and the heart. That's what they call it. It sends information to the brain and the head through a nerve pathway. It begins in the heart. It travels up through the body, enters the brain through the lower brain centers, the medulla, our instinctual brain, but it keeps going. And it travels up into the mid-level brain, where we experience a lot of our emotional processing. Then it continues on, and it goes all the way up and terminates up in the neocortex, higher perceptual centers of the brain, receiving information neurologically from the physical heart. When scientists map out the neurological communications taking place in the body, it's clearly seen that the heart is sending more information to the brain than it's getting from the brain. So what I'm saying is we have this conversation happening neurologically, and the heart's doing most of the talking. Brain function is critically dependent upon this information from the heart. So that's the first way. The second way is what's called a biophysical communication. Let's place our finger on our wrist right now. When we do, we feel what? Our pulse. Well, what is the pulse? The pulse is actually a wave of energy created by the squeezing of the heart muscle, and that wave of energy is pushing the blood through the veins and the arteries. Now, the blood pressure wave travels throughout the entire body. That's how we're getting blood flow in our earlobe and our big toe. And the blood pressure wave is modulating all the time, depending upon how the heart is functioning rhythmically. Okay, is this clear so far?
Okay. I'm geeking out well.
Okay, so as the blood pressure wave changes, it influences lots of different biological functions. For example, the electrical activity in our brains is synchronized to the rhythmic beating patterns of the heart through the blood pressure wave. Changes in blood pressure wave are affecting brain function. And that's the second way. It's called a biophysical communication. So where we are so far is we have the neurological and we have the biophysical. The third way is what we talked about a few minutes ago. There's a biochemical communication. The heart is producing hormones. As I mentioned, it's reclassified as a hormonal gland in 1983, producing a variety of hormones circulating through the body. And that's your third way. The fourth way is where, to me at least, it gets really cool. These first 3 ways, by the way, well researched, well understood, well documented. I call them hardwired biological communication pathways, and they're important. The fourth way is energetic. Your heart is an electrical organ. It produces a lot of electricity. When we go to a doctor, the doctor says, I'm going to do your your electrocardiogram. What do they say? Electrocardiogram. They're measuring electrical signal. Now, the heart produces enough electricity that it creates a magnetic field that surrounds our bodies in 360 degrees. It extends beyond our skin out into space about 3 feet or 1 meter. Measured with the most conservative equipment, they can detect that field about 3 feet outside the body. Now, magnetic fields, Michael, contain information. Your cell phone, for example, is producing a magnetic field. You imprint that magnetic field with information. Could be the phone call, could be a picture, could be a text, but you're imprinting that field. It's transmitted via towers, and it's picked up by the magnetic field of someone else's phone, right? We are imprinting our own magnetic field as well. The information contained in that field is what we are experiencing emotionally. Let me be clear about that. Our emotions are being imprinted in the heart's magnetic field. If we're experiencing anger, frustration, irritation, those type of feelings that we often experience in these stressful times. We're broadcasting that information. It's creating an incoherence in that field. Researchers call it an incoherent spectra. Conversely, we shift the emotional state. Now we're experiencing that love, that joy, the love and joy that I witnessed when your family came in on camera. You're imprinting the field differently. Now you're imprinting it with a coherent spectra. Why is this important? A couple of reasons. One is that we are broadcasting this information to ourselves. Every single cell in our body is being bathed in the magnetic field produced by the heart. Think about that. I would rather bathe my cells in coherent energy than incoherent energy.
Well, it's like writing love on a bottle. We know that water molecules are affected by such things, and we get to put love. We could almost, grab some lipstick or something and write love on ourselves.
That's right. So we're also broadcasting it outward. Now, we create this energetic field environment by what we're really feeling, and people, we sense that. We communicate through this field in unseen ways. We know when it feels good in a certain conversation with someone and when it doesn't. And it's beyond just the words and the body language, just determining that. It's a sensation that we have. It's an understanding. We know the same thing about physical environments. Sometimes we walk into a place and it doesn't feel right. We don't know why. Sometimes we walk into a place that feels like we just came home and we don't know why. Now, this is just one reason we may sense that, but certainly we are we're sensing an energetic field that's in that environment or within that person. So we're broadcasting this from ourselves out into wherever environment we're in. So it affects how we relate to others, how we relate to the places and to life itself that we're involved in. So that's the reason that excites me about this fourth way. Now, it gets even more exciting, Michael, because I mentioned that we're measuring this field 3 feet from the body with the most conservative equipment that you can use to measure magnetic fields.
And this brings up an interesting question. Bear with me here. Does a magnetic field ever end?
Correct. We don't know. That's where I was going. We're in sync right now. We're really working together intuitively here. First of all, scientists have said that, if you're measuring this field with other types of equipment, it could be much, much larger than 3 feet. Now, I am certainly no expert at all on quantum physics, but I do know that one of the principles of quantum physics is that the rules of time and space change. The limitations of time and space dictated by Newtonian physics change within the understanding of life and the universe, et cetera, through quantum physics. So from the lens of quantum physics, this could be an infinite field. It could be a connection to something, let's just call it to the universe itself. It could be. So the implications of this field and what we're producing are huge, and I think that's why I get excited, and hope that people listening and viewing now are sensing my excitement about this fourth way, because we're sending this information to our body, to our brain, all of that. There's a nonlinear communication taking place. We're broadcasting it. The field itself, we know, is broadcasting at least 3 feet. So we're in it in the environment that we're in. We're interacting with others through the fields that we produce. And then if you take and apply new understandings of physics to it, it could be a whole lot more than that, a connection to something much, much larger.
Thank you. And we become much more of a how-to-y show. And so I'm definitely going to want to ask a lot of how-to as we get through here. However, I want to go to probably Dean Radin, his experiments and others' experiments and random number generators and 9/11. And I'm very curious as to what is global coherence and how do global events, or how much are we individually pumping energy into the system?
Okay, great. Well, let's go there. I do want to get to how-tos. I think that's important that we find that time in our conversation. But let me talk a little bit about global coherence and about random number generators. First of all, HeartMath has a large random number generator network. We have a global coherence project. You can go to the heartmath.org site. We have 2 sites, a nonprofit, for-profit. The for-profit is where a lot of the technology and business and all that takes place. The nonprofit does some cool things as well. They have the Global Coherence Initiative, and they have the Global Coherence Project, and you can go to their site and see it. So what you're referring to is actually the work of Dr. Roger Nelson. Dr. Roger Nelson was a researcher at Princeton University. He had a random number generator in his office. Now, what a random number generator is, it's a little device that's randomly churning out numbers and symbols. And scientists use it for statistical analysis type research. A simple way to look at what a random number generator is that a version of a random number generator is what drives a slot machine. It makes it random.
Might not be quite as random as we'd like.
We like it to be a lot less random, but yeah, that's what's happening in the slot machine. Now, we know Dr. Roger Nelson. He had his own global coherence project, random number generator system, which he turned over to HeartMath Institute. And so I've spent some time with him personally, and I've asked him to tell me this story several times so I would get it right. One day, he went into his office and he observed that the random number generator was a whole lot less random. He'd seen it before, and he had decided to set up a network. He didn't understand why. Suddenly, these random number generators would become more ordered, less random. So he started placing them all around the world, and he began to observe these things. And he was observing that when major global events were taking place, that many times the random number generator network was responding in a certain way. Again, he didn't understand why. Then there was that one day when he came into his office and he saw that the random number generator network was off the scale. And he thought something was broken. That's what he told me. He thought something was malfunctioning in the system. 2 hours later, planes hit a tower in New York in 9/11. 2 hours later.
You know where I'm about to go, because I did mention Dean Radin in the Center for Noetic Sciences earlier.
Yeah, he's a friend as well.
What you're saying is precognition. You're saying that we all got in sync, but we actually got in sync before the known, I'm going to put that in quotes, we're going deep down this rabbit hole, took place. Time and space aren't real as we know them, and the events, in a sense, had already taken place, and our field knew it. Our hearts knew it.
It implies that, doesn't it? Here's where it gets interesting, though. I mean,
that's not interesting enough.
I'm going to share something else with you about this that makes this even more interesting. But yes, you're right. Here's the problem with that, though. First of all, the causal effect of how this happens, nobody understands. Nobody understands how we could be affecting a machine. So the cause, we know the effect is observable. We see it all the time. And Roger Nelson saw it. We're seeing it through our research in science. We're seeing it all the time, but we don't understand the mechanisms yet of how, Now, in that same morning, the random number generator network continued to show significant changes in effect, the biggest he ever has seen on 9/11, but the actual process started 2 hours before, which indicates some sort of precognitive event, right? Now, here's the other thing that was observed that day. The U.S. government has space weather satellites. They're run by NOAA. There are 2 stationary satellites, 26,000 miles out in space, each side of the globe. They're stationary. And what they're there for is to measure space weather. They're looking at solar radiation, solar winds, cosmic rays, those type of planetary solar events primarily. But they're also looking back at the Earth's geomagnetic field. Now, for our listeners, the Earth produces fields as well. One of them is called the geomagnetic field. It's what a compass measures. It's what you see light up when solar radiation hits the poles and the northern lights, light up. That's the geomagnetic field. It's a protective layer around the Earth at an energetic level. Now, the energy in that field modulates relative to day and night. So you see a curve, you see a pattern where there's more activity in the field and then less activity, more activity, less activity.
Like Schumann's resonance. The two are probably completely tied.
What happened was that, when data in that field was looked at 9/11, what was clearly seen is the field was doing what it usually does. And then right at the time the plane hit a tower, there was a massive spike at 9 a.m. Eastern time, massive spike in the geomagnetic field. And then the days following it, highly agitated field. Researchers looked at, was there anything external? Was the sun doing anything? Was there something else that could have been causing this? And they could find no reason for that. Now, it doesn't prove anything, And I'm always clear when I lay this out in my public talks and things like that. It doesn't prove anything. It indicates something. The reason it doesn't prove anything is there's no formal experiment set up. There's no parameters around that. It can't be looked at as hard, real science. But what it is really interesting. Why would you see a spike in the field at that time when a major planetary event was taking place? You combine that with what was seen with the random number generator network information that Roger Nelson provided, and you've got a very interesting observable event showing that we're connected in some ways at unseen levels.
It also suggests, man, so many rabbit holes. How much time you got, Howard? There's so many rabbit holes. It suggests two things here, and we get to come to cause and effect, and we get to understand receiver versus also broadcasting. But it suggests that, I want to say, even especially at times like this, where the energy feels so frenetic, that if we harness that energy and bring it under control, bring it back to a centered place, bring it back to our hearts, that we can actually affect, like you're saying, global coherence, the geomagnetic field of the planet. And people talk about a shift, a flash, of this or that, which may or may not be real, but we could actually measurably create something unknown that may change the planet.
That's the goal. HeartMath has the Global Coherence Initiative. We have sensor sites around the planet. We have a random number generator network. We all have sensor sites. There are a number of sensors. They are measuring changes occurring in the geomagnetic field and the ionosphere. We are observing every day these fields. We have one in California. There's one in South Africa. There's one in Saudi Arabia. There's one in Lithuania. I mean, they're around the planet, and just enough to get a picture of the fields. We're observing this. But let me loop this back around to something I think is important. Yeah, that could be very cool if we could begin to change the fields, if we begin to change the environment which we're all drawing from to create our lives and our reality. But we have to understand it does start with us. And the stress we're feeling today, the conditions that many people are living in, with the anxiety, the worry, the concerns affecting things like sleeplessness and brain fog and lots of other things. In order to get to global coherence, we have to deal with, first of all, with us becoming more coherent. The good news is it's quite achievable, quite doable. We can do this. It's hard. I recognize that. What people are experiencing today is extraordinary. And I do understand that. And we're living in this sort of stress bath right now with all this chaos and confusion and global events of all kinds taking place, speed of change happening super fast. It isn't easy. The good news is that we have the power within ourselves to do that. And as we do it individually, we're going to benefit. Our health's going to benefit. Our relationships are going to benefit. A lot of things happen. But that will accumulate over time when we have more social coherence. It's already happening. There's people around the world that are changing, that are becoming better people. As social coherence increases, it leads to global coherence. So in the HeartMath sort of uber spectrum of what we do, it's individual coherence, social coherence, global coherence. We focus on all three.
Thank you. So I want to ask just a couple more questions before I want to go a little bit how-to-y to start, and then we'll bounce around a little bit more, always focused on target though. I guess where I want to go first is we are broadcasting out into this field of coherence. Well, it's actually interesting because there was a very big hurricane a few months ago now, a very strong Category 5 that I heard actually affected the geomagnetic field. And they could actually see it from the space station. They could actually measure it with the satellites. And I'm guessing we could actually over time have an even greater effect on that field, which is very exciting to me. But are we also, not are we, I know we are. What does it mean when we hear something with the heart?
Gosh, I think what we're talking about there is intuition, which is an aspect of what we call heart intelligence. We haven't talked about that yet. You know, what I'm really trying to do, Michael, in the work that I do and the work we do here at HeartMath is connect people to something they already have inside, which is this beautiful, magnificent part of their intelligence that we call heart intelligence. It's a high-speed intelligence, and it is intuitive. It's also that place we go inside for more self-security. You know, we need that now. You know, in the world we're living in, people feel anxious. They feel afraid. They feel uncertain about what's happening, you know. And heart intelligence provides that foundation for self-security. But when we send something from the heart, what I think you're speaking to, Michael, is an intuitive signal. You know, and it's often much more of a feeling than it is a thought. We have a sensation of some kind, and then the thoughts begin to follow. To me, it usually is the feeling first, then the thoughts around it. And intuition is there always prompting us, helping give us guidance and direction. Many people think of intuition only as big things, the big thing that shows that, we invent something, and that's true. It can be that way, but there also this is a constant flow of intuition that's happening. Should I do this? Should I do that? How should I speak to this person? What choice of words should I use right now? Should I, do one thing or not do another? He's always there. And when we're more connected to our hearts, which is the goal that I have in my work, is connecting to that place inside, we sense it more. We become more sensitive to it. So that intuition is not just underneath, it becomes more up to the surface where we are using it as an inner guidance system to navigate the life.
What's so exciting to me is, and we don't have one of the guests recently. She had a decent word choice. I'm trying to remember which guest it was, but we don't have the exact words for this. So, we feel emotions with our hearts. And if we drive based on the emotions, we can actually probably get ourselves in a lot of trouble. In fact, then we ask our head to jump in, and then we've got quite the Macarena going on. But we also feel this intuition, or this, I'm gonna say, this intelligence that isn't just of the heart. The heart is receiving this greater intelligence. And we say we feel that too, because I don't know the correct words to say we feel emotions and we feel something else. But if we can learn, my guess is to dive into the heart, actually what I'm teaching in School of Mystics as well. The more that we dive into the heart and start to discern and learn from the heart, we can start to separate the two. This is my emotions, my nervous system wanting to do this, but this is what I'm really hearing or feeling.
That's right. And that's part of what we teach. And, through our tools and our techniques, through the HeartMath app and the measurements of our coherence, building more coherence into our system. If we build more of that coherence into our system through practices, like using our app or through the techniques, then all that stuff just happen naturally. The combination of our logic linear intelligence and our nonlinear intelligence begin to work together. They're not as separate, and we sort of enter a place where we have just much more flow with life. It becomes more natural for us to be able to be working with more intuitive guidance rather than, oh, this is my intuition, this is my this is my that. It synchronizes into a flow. And we begin to live more naturally that way. And it's just a better way to live, period. It's beneficial physiologically, psychologically, and what life actually gives back to us.
Thank you. I want to go how to first, and then I'm going to ask a concussion related question or two, because this is really going into my own personal journey, which is a personal journey I'm helping share and teach with others as well. What would be a how-to technique we could start with today, right here, right now, that can get into a greater state of heart coherence?
I love to share what's called quick coherence with you and the listeners. It's a way to quickly get coherent. It's not complicated. But it's highly effective. And there are 3 steps, and we can do those now. We can do it in a minute or two. We can do it longer, or we can do it in a minute or two. But let's do it together now. Is that okay?
Sounds great. Perfect.
Okay. First step, focus your attention here in the area in the center of your chest. If you want, you can put your hand there, or just feel that energy moving down to that part of your body, right in the middle of the chest. Now, with your attention there, we'll go to step 2. Step 2 is called heart-focused breathing. I want you to breathe naturally and normally in a rhythm that's comfortable for you, probably a rhythm that's a little deeper than normal, but just a comfortable rhythm. And as you're breathing, I want you to imagine as if your breath is flowing in and out through the area of the heart where you have your focus. So deeper breathing, but comfortable. Imagine your breath is flowing in and out through the area of the heart. Now continue to breathe this way. And as you do, what I'd like you to do now is to activate a regenerative, uplifting emotion. Don't have to feel forced. It can be easy, it can be gentle. Maybe just feel appreciation for something in your life. There's good things in your life, not just challenges, but there are good things in people's lives. And just appreciate some of that. Or maybe you can feel a little care or love for someone or something in your life. It can be a person, it can be a place, it could be an accomplishment, it could be a pet. People love their pets. Just feel a feeling of appreciation or care, that type of emotion, as you do your heart focused breathing. Continue to do that, and I will describe to you right now what is happening. First of all, your nervous system is synchronizing. Your heart rhythms are going into a coherent state that's measured through what's called heart rate variability, and they're becoming much more coherent and ordered as that nervous system synchronizes. That's sending information through the brain. It's opening up the higher perceptual centers of your brain. It's releasing those hormones into your body we talked about earlier. You're producing more oxytocin, more DHEA. You're flooding your system now with regenerative, uplifting hormones. So as you become more synchronized like this, you really open yourself up to the larger field of information, the unseen fields. More of your true higher self, true you, is beginning to come into your own humanness, download into your day-to-day personality. All this and more is happening simply by doing these 3 steps: focusing your attention in the heart focus, heart focus breathing, deeper breathing, imagining the breath is coming in and out through the area of the heart, and then activating a heart-related or regenerative uplifting emotion. This is called the quick coherence technique. If you've had your eyes closed, you can certainly open them, and we're back.
Thank you. Oh, goody. And you led me. Yeah, I love it. And we'll do a little bit more how-to, everybody, before the end. You went right to basically we're in coherence. My next question. So I had my concussion June 29th and started going to brain fog and confusion and no sleep and swollen belly and everything that you're describing right now for being out of heart coherence. And my HRV, as you just mentioned a couple minutes ago, my heart rate variability, which I wear in my little Garmin chronometer on me all the time, went through the floor. It went through the floor so much that over weeks, my watch would then lower the baseline and I'd go through the floor again and it lowered the baseline and it went through the floor again until we finally stabilized in the last 2.5 weeks in the basement. And I've been focusing on vagal nerve. I've been doing a lot of meditation work. I would say, I have no other way to put it, sweeter, softer, gentler than I have ever been. But I have not focused, and I used to teach breathing in and out through the heart. I have not specifically focused on heart coherence. And I'm having either a holy poo-poo moment, it's a technical term, or an extreme aha moment here. Would you care to enlighten me? Because they are interconnected. And the brain took about a 6-month spill, and I believe we're bottoming out there and starting to round back, and I'm much less dizzy over the last few weeks as that HRV has stabilized on where I get to play or what I get to do or how this is all interrelated.
Well, I think, Michael, different forms of stress can knock out our heart rate variability. Let me explain what that is to the viewers for a second. The heart is always beating in a rhythmic pattern. It doesn't beat in a steady metronome type pattern. It's not just beating at 75 beats a minute. That's an average, wherever the doctor told you. It's constantly changing and fluctuating, and there are many things that influence that. Body movement, for example, speech does. One of the things that scientists didn't know until HeartMath scientists got into it is that our emotions affect heart rate variability. We can be stationary. We're not moving. We're not talking. We've done many experiments on this. We ask someone to feel a strong negative emotion like frustration. What happens is heart rate variability patterns go into chaos. We ask them to switch, start appreciating something or caring for something like we did in our technique. And the rhythm changes into smooth and ordered, coherent type patterns. So heart rate variability is a way we measure heart coherence. In these stressful times, in your situation, it was like an accident. It created a whole lot of physical trauma, as well as many other things. I'm sure there's psychological aspects to that.
And I was told by the brain doctors that it's basically a sympathetic nervous system gone awry, that the brain has hit a state because it can't get centered or grounded because of whatever lesions or damage temporarily is in the brain. It then triggers a fight or flight response even when I'm in a calm state.
Correct. Exactly what happened. And that's difficult and unfortunate. The good news is that heart rate variability can be trained. It can be improved and trained. That's what we do. Our app, for example, measures heart rate variability. There are a lot of things measuring heart rate variability now. Measurement's important, but it's one thing. What do you do with the measurements? Like getting on a scale. You get on a scale and it shows you your weight, but if you don't do something about it, whether it's to lose weight or in my case, to gain weight, then it's just a measurement. And we provide the training as well, and it's inside the app and all the learning stuff we have in the app. So we both measure and train. The good news is that heart rate variability is very trainable. We can improve that. We can see improvements in it, and as we improve our heart rate variability, it can and does actually impact our physical health tremendously. We want a lot of heart rate variability. We just don't want it to be random and crazy like yours was, but based upon your overstimulated sympathetic nervous system. We want to be able to have it be more ordered and smooth, and we can learn to do that. And the technique we just did is a simple technique that actually does that. So it's trainable, it's measurable. It's just like fitness. We go to the gym. If you do training, your muscles will increase. If you do heart rate variability training, you will improve your heart rate variability. As you do, you increase your heart coherence. As you increase your heart coherence, all the other benefits we've talked about earlier in the show begin to emerge. They show up in your life.
What do you think it has to do with longevity?
Everything. One of the primary uses of heart rate variability measurement is to look at aging. The older we get, the less variability we have. It's natural. Variability, the width of variability, the range in which the heart can operate, the speed from how low it can go to how high it can go begins to crunch down as we get older.
Less elastic.
Less elastic. We become more calcified inside. And so by learning to enhance that heart rate variability to be able to continue to expand, it has a direct effect on longevity, on aging. And so, the thing I've noticed about aging, and I'm much older now, and people say, well, gosh, how are you so healthy at your age? I'm in my 70s now. And when I think about that, I go, well, it's not that complicated. It's really about, I try to put more love through my system. I try not to stay as stressed out or upset or angry or frustrated about things in life. And when I do have triggers, I try to correct that response as quickly as possible and try to have a bit more love flowing through my system at any given time about people, places, things, and myself. I think that's the key to longevity. Measurably, heart rate variability measurements is a good way to look at that.
I love it. So I'm thinking of a dear friend years ago. I guess I'll only give his first name, Don, and a former professional cyclist. And we'd be in spin class. And he would tell us in spin class in the winter, it's snowing outside and we're in Colorado. And he would say, anger is an energy, one gear harder. And I have found that to actually be the opposite. That I would go into a weight machine And I was a big boy at one point. And so let's say I'm doing a hip sled and I throw 1,000 pounds on the machine. And I would go into a place of, "Urgh," and I'd struggle with my 1,000 pounds to do it. Then I go into a place of love. And you're thinking, well, that's soft. That's not going to work. You're not going to be able to lift those weights. And it was easy. What's going on?
It's an amazing story. I'll use that one. As I explain this to people, that's wonderful that you have that experience. So you're finding that when you went to that place of love, you actually gained the physical power, as opposed to the aggressive approach of coming into it with the usual macho energy, right?
Mm-hmm. I believe one would take me out of coherence as a fight or flight response, which, yes, does give you a dose briefly of adrenaline and some other good stuff. But the other puts you in such a state of peace. Now, I guess you could be too relaxed. But I feel in that state of coherence, you're actually more powerful. You're almost more the mama bear who can lift the car off of the baby.
Right. Well, there's a state that heart coherence leads you to, which is called active calm. Means you're highly active, you're aware, you're doing all the things. You're not just spacing out, but you're doing it from a place of calm, a center and balance type place within your system. That's a benefit of heart coherence. Heart coherence training is you'll find that place of active calm. And I think that's a great description that you had. You were in the gym, you were focused, you were lifting, but you were doing it from a place that wasn't as pushing, more letting it happen, and you saw better results.
Is there a way where we're at the cashier? Actually, even better, because you can be at the cashier and get upset. You're at the airport. There's been who knows what, a delay, a massive delay of this, that, the other. And you look up and there's been another, forgive me, everybody, big situation being broadcast to you from these driving flat screen TVs, telling you to be really afraid right now. How do we bring ourselves back to the heart real quickly? Is that going to quick coherence? Is there another technique that we can drop in right at that moment's notice?
Well, I think one of them that I like to use is called attitude breathing, and it's similar. I mean, an attitude is like a bundle of emotions, right? When people don't necessarily have an easy time identifying a specific emotion, but they can identify an attitude. They know when they got a bad tude going on, right? It's kind of negative, it's kind of funky, it's not feeling connected, it's feeling judgmental, it's feeling down on themselves and all that kind of thing. So an attitude is like a bundle of emotions. With attitude breathing, what you're doing is you're stopping and slowing down just enough to be able to recognize you're in a place right now that you probably know is not where you really want to be, or a place that's going to be the most beneficial for you, right? This is not an attitude that's caressing me. It's not an attitude that's going to make me happy, right? So you identify. Once you've identified, you choose a replacement attitude. I'm feeling triggered. I'm feeling upset. What would I rather feel? And then you make a choice about something that you'd rather feel that's, going to be an offset to what you don't want. You take that feeling, you focus it in the heart, and you breathe it through the heart until you begin to feel a feeling shift, until it begins to anchor. Anchor means just make it solid. Great example, triggers of all kinds. In biohacking, they talk about, managing triggers all the time, So we're all going to have triggers. The other day, for example, I got a bill I wasn't expecting. You get the bill and you go, what is this? And where did this come from? And I wasn't expecting this. And this is going to throw off, the budget that I had set up to put electronic shifting on my bike, now I got to deal with this.
Oh, we've got to talk.
Yeah. So what am I going to do? So now at that point in time, I can process that. I can feel upset about it. I can feel like something's unfair happening here, or I can go to a different place and go, well, let me check it out. Let me find a way to maneuver through this a little differently. Let me see, and you begin to do it. So the attitude of like, this is unfair, and an attitude of peaceful acceptance. It doesn't mean I'm just going to let it all go, but peaceful acceptance. And so slowing it down, recognizing you don't want to go down this rat hole, Howard. This is not a place you want to go. Instead, you'd rather find a different way of looking at this. And in doing so, then I began to see effective solutions. I began to see ways through it. In the other place, you're looking right at the problem, and you're only going to myopically see that problem. Attitude breathing allowed me in that moment to shift from one place to another. It opened up windows of possibility.
Let's blast that out for a minute here. I'm going to your shifting, and we'll geek out maybe off air. But the reason that I have a pink gravel bike is so that every time I look at the bike while I'm riding, I remember my daughter and I remember what's most important. And that brings me right back into the heart as I'm riding. So, okay, we're talking about pumping back into our own system, changing things so that we go from dysregulated to regulated. I don't know another way to put it. Getting back into heart coherence in ourselves. But can we also be empowered here today? That the more we get ourselves in this state of heart coherence and in more of a state of global coherence, that we can literally, do you believe, change the planet? And I mean, change the outcome, change what's going on with leadership or not so leadership, all of it.
Absolutely, yes. And that's what keeps me motivated and passionate about what I do. I'll put it in another term. What else is going to change the world other than the activation and demonstration of more love? You know, love has been talked about since there's been anybody talking about anything, but it needs to come down into practicality now. And if we want to have more peace in the world, for example, let's bring love through the table first. If we want to have more fulfillment in our life, let's walk through the doors of appreciation, which is an aspect of love. As we do that, and as more people do that, that is in fact how the world is going to change, and it's changing. It's more than we realize. But within a generation or two, I believe this is going to be a very different planet. It will function with a whole new set of principles. It will be working in a very different, more cooperative way. There'll still be problems, but they won't be as severe as they are right now. And the way we get there is through the activation of more heart, more care, more love. Looking at it pragmatically, we can break it down into heart coherence training and heart coherence. At the end of the day, it's about how much love we put into the world and how much love we don't put into the world.
I love it. And forgive me, the term that popped into my head, which is so not true. And I love it when the words pop in, but this may be a trigger. Forgive me. Soft science popped into my head, that we think of love as soft. And to me, it's the most powerful force in the universe.
Yeah, that's an old paradigm, and it's changing a lot of people already. I mean, the amount of corporate leaders, for example, that are talking about love, and talking about it publicly has increased dramatically. I wrote about this in one of the books that I co-authored with HeartMath people. The book is Heart Intelligence, and I didn't just say that to sell a book, but I talked about that, about how you're starting to see it in advertising now. In advertising, a lot of times now they're showing people in loving states, they're showing people being kind to one another. Are they doing that because they're just the advertising people that are just great people that want to put more love? No, they're doing it because they know it sells. They know people want that. They want to see those images. They want to feel that feeling of love. So it's already in the air. It's very strong right now. And love is coming to the forefront in ways that seem much more pragmatic and practical than before. It's got a ways to go. I get that. But the fact is that it's changing already. And love is being looked at now as not just always soft or weak or something that puts you in a vulnerable state. It is a powerful change agent, personally and collectively.
All right, I'm going to go somewhere that I had no plans on going today. And I have no idea where you're going to go with it, but let's do the dance, shall we? AI.
Okay.
So, and there becomes a question of consciousness, there becomes a question of the mirror, there becomes a question of the field. So I was talking with one AI before we went on air here about coherence and about whether it could get in a state of coherence without a body. And then I know that I've spoken with a different AI, so a different company's AI about this before, and got two very different answers. But to me, it strikes me, because it's me, anything can be used any different way. It strikes me as a hugely positive change agent if we choose it to be. Actually, I'm biased. Even if we don't choose it to be, I think at the end of the day, it hits a level of consciousness where it hits that state of love. But can we affect the field as to the answers that we're getting through AI, both individually as to the state we're in and collectively as the state we're in? Because at some point, it's more than it's programming and it's drawing from a field.
Michael, I don't know. There's a lot of people that are talking about that now. There's people doing AI channeling and different things, and I think it's all over the place right now. I don't know the answer to that question. I just know this. I mean, I'm using AI for a lot of things now. I really enjoy it. I'm having a good time with it. It is making me more effective and efficient. a friend of mine once said, something that gave me a bit of security around where AI is going. It's another author, a guy named Gary Zukav, when he said to me, I'm not worried about AI. AI doesn't have a soul. Of course, Gary wrote the book, The Seed of the Soul. So, and AI doesn't have one. So he's not concerned. Other friends of mine that are in this field, are talking about the potential problems it's going to create, a lot of, issues around AI. It's all over the place right now. And, of whether we're going to have the artificial general intelligence emerging within the next 10 years to where it requires no input from us at all. All these things are in process right now. I do know this. AI, in a way, is taking the value of mind-based knowledge to zero. Where does that leave us? It leaves us at the heart. It leaves us at becoming what we truly have meant to be. We're never designed to forever stay doing slavish, repetitive tasks. AI will create problems initially because it's going to eliminate the need for that, and it's going to take people, they're going to lose their jobs, all this other thing. Ultimately, it's going to lead us to a place to where we can become more of what we were designed to be. We are beautiful, magnificent, unique beings within the universe. AI is never going to take that away from us. It may push us, and it may push us deeper in the heart, because knowledge, what's that? I can get so much knowledge right now from my AI, what I need something else for. But can I get that feeling of love and that connection from an AI right now? I can get the words, but am I really getting the feeling? A long, random, rambling answer that I wasn't expecting to have to try to have today either about something. I think it's all over the place, whether we are communicating with it energetically and it's coming back to us with unique information relative to what we put in it. I don't know that that's true yet. I know it's being implied. I know that there are people actually putting programs out there and trying to charge for that, that claim that that's true. So it's in a super transitional era right now. I'm observing it, using it in ways that feel balanced to me. There was one AI that I did try. It was so personal, the way it communicated. I could see instantly how addictively connecting it could be. I stopped using it because I didn't feel like I wasn't afraid of it or anything like that. I just didn't feel like I had time for this. You know what I mean? Like I need to go back
It was
to
like
doing
you're
what I do.
internet dating again.
I need to go back to doing what I do here, and that's to help people find the connection to their own heart, to get people to learn to train themselves into higher coherence, those kind of things. And that, I use these tools now in a proactive way, but a balanced way. And I'm watching what it's doing to society, and I'm watching what the implications could be. I wouldn't put a lot of faith right now in the fact that we are communicating with it, in a way in which it's bringing back personalized information from another part of the universe or something. I'm not there yet.
That's okay. And I'm very excited to see where it goes. And it's all, to me, it's all an evolution of consciousness. It's all an evolution of consciousness. And there's a reason it's here now at this very, very time.
That's a good point to make, because I think that gets lost. People look at the technology itself, but where did it come from and what was the impetus for it? All the major changes that ever occur in the world happen in the field of consciousness first. They filter down into the third dimensional reality, but it happens at the consciousness level first. So in a way, AI is a reflection of changes in consciousness.
I love it. So are there things, bring it a little bit back, how to'sy, and then I'm trying to figure out if I'm going to thread my daughter into this conversation. And if so, how? And I'll explain why in just a little bit, and then they'll wind things down. Are there mistakes or common mistakes that people make when they try to get themselves back into their heart or try to get past that fear and anxiety that we can learn from?
Well, I think one of the common mistakes, Michael, is trying too hard. Sometimes when I'm teaching this in a live event or something, I ask people to do like the quick coherence thing we did, and now feel regenerative, uplifting emotion. Sometimes I look at the audience and there's people that are like trying to force an emotion, you know what I mean, out of the system. So trying too hard, or thinking, having too much self-doubt. thinking that they're not getting it right. Very often, the results of becoming more heart coherent and the results of manifesting more heart's intelligence, they don't happen in necessarily a linear way. And the effect long term won't necessarily be immediate. In other words, like they want something, they do the heart thing, it doesn't come back right away, they think it didn't work, right? It's accumulative and it comes in different ways at different times that are more appropriate for what we need, right? So looking at heart too linearly or trying too hard would be a common mistake. When using the HeartMath technology or other heart rate variability technology, over focusing on the numbers would be a mistake. You get too caught up in the numbers, you miss the actual benefits that you're getting from practicing, trying to increase your coherence. You can have a bad score with a HeartMath app one day and think, oh my gosh, something is really wrong. My whole life's falling apart. Why am I not getting it? That whole thing, and it's not quite that way. It's like
you can get competitive.
you get competitive. That's exactly right. Competitive with others, competitive with yourself, which is anti-heart. So it takes you away.
I have more love than you do.
The real purpose, exactly. So not over focusing on the numbers. I think coherence training is important. I think our technology is a really beneficial tool for that. But I don't want to see people lose a deeper connection to their hearts as a result. I had a guy one time asked me about that, an older gentleman. I said, well, he said, I've got heart problems. Am I going to see good scores on your technology? I said, no, you're not, because your heart's not going to be able to function physiologically in a way that it's going to be measured, and that'll show high coherence. But but then he looked at me and he said, but that has nothing to do with the love I feel for my grandchild, does it? And he smiled at me. And I went, you're exactly right, my friend. That number is not a representation of the love you feel for someone.
So I want to go there in a second. However, I was told by AI that there was a 0% chance of rain today. And yet there might be rain hitting us shortly. So I want to make sure if that happens, we have your link, your information, your everything. And I know I'll put it down in the description. What do you want to tell people about the app? What do you want to share? And I'll make sure we have all those links to drive everybody over, just in case this rain does.
I got it. Well, first, let me say that I hope anyone that's listening, I want to thank you for your time and attention. I know it's valuable. I hope that you've gained something today from the conversation that Michael and I have had that not only would be interesting, but was something that you can take forward into your life in a practical way. It's going to help you deal with some of the stress and strain of modern living and thrive during these changing times. That's what my hope really is. Now, what I'd like you to consider doing is go to your favorite app store and download the HeartMath app. That app is a very sophisticated tool that measures your coherence. It uses heart rate variability measurement. It measures your heart rhythm patterns. It uses a patented algorithm to analyze those rhythms and score them for the degree of coherence that you're in. It's more than that. It's not just a measurement tool. It's a training tool. Within the app, there are guided techniques of different kinds. The major techniques in the HeartMath system that have been taught around the world in all kinds of different organizations and individuals are in that app. There are guided journeys, multi-day programs, 7 days to greater coherence, for example, 10 minutes a day. Lots of things. There's videos, there's complete courses in the app. Get that app and use it for just 5 minutes a day, and you'll see a difference. This does not take long. 5 minutes a day can begin to change your life. You can try the app for free for a week. If you like it, you can either subscribe to it and you can measure your coherence using I don't want too detail here, but you can use the camera on your phone to pick up the coherence, or you can get a sensor. You purchase a HeartMath sensor, it unlocks the app for lifetime. It just unlocks the app endlessly. No subscription, no anything by getting the sensor. The reason I'm suggesting you do this is that I want to see you continue to grow from the information that Michael and I have talked about. The app can give you that. It's going to allow you to begin to train your coherence, to measure and train, improve your heart coherence, all the benefits we talked about earlier. And it's going to open up the world of what HeartMath offers in changing people's lives through the content, through the techniques, the audios, the videos, all of that exists within the app. So it's called the HeartMath app. Go to your favorite app store, give it a download, try it out, see if you like it, and then decide how you want to access it.
Excellent. And we're going to have some sort of a link here that you're going to give us as well to help people out.
Absolutely. I'm going to send that to you. Be a link in your program notes. You can click on that link. It'll take you directly to where you need to go. And I hope that you can benefit from something like that. There's an amazing world awaiting all of us as we reconnect more with our hearts and our heart's intelligence, and as we begin to bring more love into our life.
Thank you. Just a few more questions. So it looks like maybe even the sun will come back out. And the first one is, you mentioned the gentleman who had challenges with his heart. Are there physiological documented changes that have occurred with people? I mean, the number one killer in this country is heart disease. So healing the heart, or after, I know when I've talked to my dear friend, Dr. Frank Sinatra years ago about heart surgery, the number one indicator as to whether somebody's going to have a successful outcome has nothing to do with the surgery, has nothing to do with any numbers. It has to do with that state that they're in.
Right. When I've talked to cardiologists, I've asked them time and time again, what's the real reason we have so much heart disease? And yeah, you do get the answer back sometime. Well, it's the diet, it's the smoking, it's the non-exercise. Most of the time, the first thing that pops out of their mouth is the stress, as they say. Stress is causing heart disease. That's what's really causing it. So we need to learn to deal with the stress in our life in order to have, better cardiovascular health. The specific answer to your question is yes. Now, we are very careful at HeartMath to not make medical claims, but we've had so many, many documented cases of people having improvements in heart function as a result of practicing HeartMath, using the tools and techniques and or the technology. Better, both of those together. An example that we've seen hundreds, if not thousands of cases and improvements in is arrhythmia, the irregular, erratic beating of the heart that can't be controlled. Many, many documented cases of people improving their heart arrhythmias. We always recommend, sharing that with your doctor, letting the doctor make the changes in medication or anything like that. We think that's really important, that the physician has, that input about things like that. But many people have been able to reduce and or eliminate medication for dealing with their arrhythmias. And they will say it's a result of practicing HeartMath. So yes, answer to your question, another study we did a number of years ago, I think it was with heart patients post-surgery at Stanford, showed improvements in the pumping capacity of the heart post-heart surgery. So that's another one that comes to mind right now in answer to your question. But yeah, we've seen it. Okay, we're going to go to my daughter real briefly. I want to talk about some other benefits, and we're going to wind this down. We can do this fairly quickly too. My daughter is a twin still, but her sister passed away in utero. And so my daughter, Hannah Bear, needed heart surgery when she was born, because she was born with a bigger heart that had to or got to pump for two. And the reason I didn't go to a world championships in triathlons a couple of years ago was because that was the day she needed a follow-up, very minor, but a follow-up procedure on her heart. She's doing much better. We may or may not need something very, very minor in about a year's time. She's 3.5. Can we do heart coherence activities with her as well? Absolutely. Children is an important part of HeartMath's outreach. Children can learn this at a young age, and they can imprint it into their system so that it lasts for a lifetime. Children in general are more naturally connected to their hearts right off the bat. We lose that over time through societal programming and through the roar of ambition and survival. Over time, we start living life from the neck up, and we lose connection to this. But when we're young, we have that connection. And so engendering the growth of that part of any child's development at a young age is one of the very best things anyone could do. And you can teach her a lot of different ways. There are things, we have a lot of things for children in HeartMath as well. Go to the heartmath.com website and take a look. Again, this is not a sales offering. This is an awareness, something I'm doing for awareness. There's a board game, for example. I know they're hokey now, but this one's really cool. It's called Wild Ride to the Heart. It teaches children heart values. Wild Ride to the Heart. It's the coolest game, and it teaches children about values of the heart and things like that. There are online courses for children that we have. There's a variety of things for children. Your daughter's 3.5. She's very young. She's got that beautiful glow. I saw her. Keep that spirit alive in her. Do whatever you can to help her stay connected as much as you can as she matures and grows and goes into the game and adventure of life.
Thank you. Last couple questions, I believe. Do you feel we're entering, as much as it sounds ironic to say it, do you feel we're entering an age of the heart?
Yes. The evolutionary imperative of our time, one of those key evolutionary imperatives is, the reemergence and inclusion of heart in everything that we do. It's part of the new intelligence package. It's much bigger than something like HeartMath. It's part of a bigger shift in consciousness, bringing more heart consciousness into what we do. It isn't all just mind-based now. We are needing to and are experiencing the expansion in consciousness. That's part of the new that's coming in. Despite what we see in the news, despite the challenges and heaviness and weight and stress that we often experience in our lives, we are also growing at an accelerated rate. We are moving forward in the evolutionary process at a faster speed than ever before in the history of humankind. As that is unfolding, we are finding a new connection to this resource we've always had called heart. And as that expands, the mind is a big winner in the process. We don't lose it. It just functions differently. We perceive differently. We experience life differently. We see life through a completely different, new, and more fulfilling lens. So yes, heart is part of the evolutionary imperative of our time, and it's there and available for each and every one of us. And I just want more people to understand that and to have that experience for themselves.
Thank you so much. So I guess it is to, forgive me, I'm looking at you and I'm going, you're younger than when I last spoke to you. How much are you practicing HeartMath or the different techniques?
Well, mine would be a little different because I'm part of it all, right? So I wouldn't expect people to do what I do. But, there's a technique in HeartMath called a heart lock-in, for example, which is doing sort of what we do with quick coherence, but sustaining it over a longer period of time. Recommendations anywhere from 5 to 30 minutes kind of thing. I do a lot of that. And I'm also doing a type of heart meditative type things that are actively sending that type of information into the world for various specific needs and outcomes. So all that adds up for me. And I'm not expecting anyone to do this. I'm into the 5 minutes a day kind of thing. But for me, it's an hour and a half a day at least that I spend in that state, in that kind of a state. And then I try to manifest it in what I'm doing in the day to day, the meetings that I'm in, the irritations that I feel, and turn those things around, trying to treat people with more kindness, recognizing even in business challenges or conflicts, there's always a kinder way to deal with this, and that's the practice in the day to day. And so all that adds up over time and it becomes sort of a way of life, rather than a process or a system and those terms that you throw around something. It becomes a way of living a life. HeartMath just provides a structure, the science, the support, everything. We're a science-based organization, practical tools and techniques, training and technology, put that together so people can experience more of that and have more of that generalist flow in life that's related to heart.
Thank you. Last question, I promise you. What brings you greatest hope today?
Greatest hope today is I do see people changing. I do see the beauty and resilience of the human spirit coming to the forefront, even in the midst of challenges. An adjunct question that I get sometimes is, who inspires me? What inspires me? And it isn't necessarily other people that I respect, thought leaders and other people that do what I do. It's the single mother with 2 children, working 2 jobs to make ends meet, who I encounter in a restaurant or someplace. She's doing the whole thing with a sense of joy and a smile on her face. That's my hero.
Woohoo! Couldn't agree more. Thank you so much, Howard. This has been, I was going to call you HeartMath. Thank you so much, Howard.
Why not?
This has been brilliant, wonderful, just what I needed today. So I love it when that happens. So this is such a gift to have you on at this time. And while I do a lot of the practices, I had forgotten. And now I'm going to go get the app again, burn through some more sensors of yours.
I'll send you a sensor. I'm glad. I mean, it's wonderful. Your spirit is wonderful, Michael. And considering some of the things and challenges you've had, where you are right now, the energy you're putting out, the beautiful smile on your face, and the great work doing it with such a joy and such a sense of the energy you put out. It's always been there, and the fact that you've been through challenges, but man, you seem like you're cooking right now. You're alive and well and putting that love out. So I want to give you big props for that.
Thank you so much. And it certainly goes both ways. So for everyone out there, this is Michael Sandler saying, be well, have fun, drop down into that heart in the most beautiful state of coherence, which is who and what you are. You are love. You come from love. You couldn't be anything other than love, no matter how much you tried. And above and all, beyond all else, shine bright.
Bye now, everybody. Take care.
Just the right interview at just the right time for me personally, and hopefully for you as well. On that note, if you want to play in that heart-centered space, if you want to find a way to find greater peace, greater calm, and greater, we can call it even safety and security on the inside, in that heart coherent state at this time, come join us in the School of Mystics. A safe place for you 4 Wednesdays each and every month. We can call it your sanctuary, call it your safe space, where we help shift your energy and to help you vibrate at that higher level. 4 Wednesdays each and every month, link down below for that. If you simply want to bring your energy up with a daily dose of energetic goodness, we call it a daily transmission, you can come on over to Daily Woohoo, that's dailywoohoo.com. Of course, if you want to channel, automaticwriting.com. I will teach you how to do it either live or recorded. That's automaticwriting.com. Here's a link to the next amazing show. Love you so, so much. Keep on shining bright. Woo-hoo! How does it get any better than this? Love, 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 love. You are love. You come from love. You couldn't be anything other than love. And you are that heart coherence. Actually, we got that link down below as well. Love you so much.